Hello, and welcome to Songs for the Struggling Artist, the blogcast. This is episode 156. And I am going a little bit out of order in terms of what's on the blog. I usually try and, follow what's blogging it up with the podcast. But I am out of town still, and without my mic, and more importantly, my mic stand. So the song that I'm working on for the previous blog is not really recordable. I need a better mic stand situation. Right now, I've propped up my mic on top of a cardboard box, so that's not quite like. It's not an ideal recording situation. It's kind of fun. It's a little DIY, but for the other song, it needs a stand. I need to be able to actually stand up to record that song. So I can record this blog for you and the song that's going with this blog, with this setup, but the other one, not so much. I tried. In addition to the mic stand, one of my USB ports doesn't work anymore. So I realized I couldn't plug both my guitar and the mic in at the same time because I didn't bring along, one of those expandery deals that allows me to put two things in at the same time. It's the little things. It is the little things. Anyway, so that one is coming up next time when I can get back to my setup. Meanwhile, today we have this one. It is called I'm Not Busy. I know you're busy, someone will say as we look at our calendars to pick a time to meet. Sometimes I just nod, and sometimes I say, I'm actually not. Most people are a little baffled by this response. How could I not be busy? And how could I confess it? There are a lot of reasons for my retreat from busyness, but confessing it feels more and more radical and more important all the time. Listening to Daniel Markovitz's lecture on the meritocracy moved me from what I thought was a private rebellion to thinking of it as a public act of resistance. In the lecture, he discusses the transfer of wealth and power from the aristocracy to the meritocracy, wherein those good things are distributed to those who work hard for them. He points out that the elite have been working increasingly mad hours and place inherent value in being busy. The answer we're all meant to give when someone asks us how we are is busy. The theory is that the growing gap between the wealthiest and the rest of us finds justification in the hour of labor a, say, hedge fund manager puts in. He deserves his private plane because he works so many hours. Fetishizing busyness like this means equating our value with how much stuff we do. Our virtue is in how much we run around or how many hours we put in at the office. When someone asks us how we are and we say busy, we are declaring our virtue and probably also our exhaustion. It does not matter what we are busy with. We could be busy taking health care from children, and we're still seen as virtuous for keeping busy. So, I'm opting out. I have already declared myself a non-productive member of society. It is not such a large step to cease to be busy. Idleness is, in fact, fantastic for art making. A quiet mind has space to invent. That is what I'm here for, so making space for a non-busy life feels imperative for my purposes. Markovitz also talks about how the gutting of a lot of industries has led to a kind of enforced idleness for the working and middle classes that serves to strip them of their virtue. If to be busy is to be good, then to be unemployed is the worst. This creates a circle of screwed up justification. The working class isn't able to work because of systemic changes usually caused by those at the top, so they're not virtuous, which means their suffering is fine because they're not busy. You see? I just finished reading Anand Giridharadas's Winners Take All, and it makes the case that a lot of the difficulties we're in culturally, economically, politically, are related to the justification mechanisms of those at the top. For example, a CEO of an oil company feels just fine about his company's destruction of the environment because he donates to public parks. As he's blocking the development of sustainable energies so he'll make more money, he's sitting, with a great deal of self-satisfaction, on the board to plant flowers in public spaces. He's busy, you see? He's not just making money, he's busy. He's a good person. At the moment, I am, in fact, not busy. But I may continue to lean into it when I am busy again. It's a terrible game, and I will not play. So, if you want to listen to that lecture, it is really fantastic. It is on the London School of Economics podcast. It was recommended to me, which is how I found it. It's not a book yet. It should be. I think it is going to be, but it's not out yet. So I think that lecture. I did some Googling around, and it was pretty much the only place to get your hands on it is in the podcast of the London School of Economics. Although I actually think there might be a transcript of the lecture on the London School of Economics website as well. So if you'd rather read it, you can do that. So check it out. It's great. It's actually about a whole lot of other things more than just the sort of cult of busyness, but I really latched on to the busyness idea. So there's a whole lot more. So enjoy. So I found a very interesting song for this podcast. I'll sometimes do like a little search, like if I can't think of something right offhand, I couldn't think of a song about busyness. Really couldn't just pull one out of my brain. So I did a little Googling, and I discovered this song by Mr. Rogers. And it's a song from an album that he put out before he was like super successful, Mr. Rogers. So it was before Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And it's really early, I want to say like 62 or something like that. So there's this song called I'm Busy Being Busy. And it's on this album that I can't remember the name of right now, something about tomorrow. It weirdly turned up in a Google search, and then I did a bunch of searching around and couldn't find very many. Like I couldn't find any sheet music. I couldn't find any chords. I couldn't find even like a way to find that information. It's all pretty buried fairly heavily. So, if you have a copy, what's interesting is on the album that it came with sheet music, but it's not available at the Performing Arts Library, none of these places. So if you're holding on to an album from Mr. Rogers from the 60s, you've got something that not a lot of people have. But weirdly, it's on YouTube. There's a copy of this album, in chunks on YouTube. And so I learned this song, I'm Busy Being Busy, which I felt perfectly encapsulated the theme of this particular blog. So I learned it from YouTube and from a lyric sheet that's included on some devotee to Mr. Rogers. I sang it a cappella because it really wants like a band. Like it's not orchestral, but it's like it wants some instrumentation, and I didn't have the chords, and it would have taken me longer to like figure out a way to instrumentalize it. That's not really a word. But I figured it would be better to get this to you in its a cappella form, which is, I think, superior. Any of me messing around on the guitar would have sort of taken away from it, I think. So enjoy it. If you want to listen to Mr. Rogers singing it in character as King Friday, I do believe, you just do a little search on the YouTubes, and there it will be. Yeah, so it's I'm busy being busy, and before I give that to you, um, what do I want to tell you? Oh, if you would like to support the podcast, first of all, what you're doing right now, listening, is great. Thank you. Next level up would be to tell someone else to listen to it. Then you could give it some 5 stars on the Apple Podcasts. A review there is good as well. If you feel like really like amping up your support, you can financially support the podcast, which would help it get made, which would be fantastic. And there are several ways to do that. There's PayPal, there's Ko-fi. I'm at Struggling Artist on PayPal and Emily R. Davis at Ko-fi. And then there's also Patreon, which is the top tier support. And that is patreon.com/Emily R. Davis. If you would like to join the band of fierce and mighty and fabulous people, please feel free. You are always welcome there. Pretty much you will get, if you join on Patreon, you get access to all these songs. Like I'll send them to all my patrons. And you get them obviously for free on the podcast, but you can get them in their MP3 forms, and have them in your very own iTunes if you want them. And also I tell my patrons good news before I tell anybody else. Aside from maybe my boyfriend and my mom, they will sometimes get the news. Although my mom is one of my patrons, so she finds out that way sometimes too. Anyway, those are all of the things. Links to those are in the show notes. Thank you for listening. And here is I'm Busy Being Busy by Fred Rogers and Josie Carey. I'm busy being busy as the calendar's my task. I'm busy giving dates away to all who come and ask for a week for this, a week for that. I'm busy being busy, and the busier I get, the more some people need a week for barbershop quartets and a week for tuna fish croquettes. I found a week for cheddar cheese, for fleas and Spanish onions. I found a week for willow trees, for bees and curing bunions. I searched with purple passion for a national event, calling the world's attention to the day the pretzel first was bent, and I gave a special Groundhog's Day to please dear Punxsutawney. I gave a week to Turtle Creek, a day to sing of Swanee. I made a special leap year too, and a day for wearing navy blue. Oh, you'll never know how much I do. I'm busy being busy. I'm busy being busy, and the busier I am, the more some people need a week for elderberry jam or a week for naming baby Sam. I'm busy being busy, and the busier I seem, the more I'm called upon to give a day to sour cream, or a week to pantomime, or fighting crime, or bells that chime. I don't have time to even end this rhyme. I'm very busy